Variety, Bob Chapek is getting pretty aggressive, feeling pretty confident in his position at Disney, and he's ruffling a lot of feathers. Now, Chapek was very controversial back when he ran Disney Parks and Experiences, so much so that theme park fans, when they saw him, well, they used to complain about him all the time, and then when they saw that Bob Iger had picked him to run the entire Mouse House, they were like, oh boy, maybe this is not going to go the way you think it is. That expression actually comes up quite a bit, as being very useful. But, I think, Bob Iger maybe made a mistake. We'll see. I mean, I'm sure Bob Iger feels that way, as the Variety report said that even Bob Iger's not enjoying Bob Chapek so much right about now. I had suspected, as did many, that Iger perhaps had picked Chapek because Chapek could do the boring, non-fun part of the job, while Iger would stay and be involved creatively. But apparently Chapek is like, hey, other Bob, you're definitely the other Bob because you're on the way out of here, Bob. Iger, of course, leaving at the end of this year. And apparently Chapek's not waiting for the end of the year to kind of push Bob Iger out. Although I don't know what Bob Iger expected. Although it just goes to show you how short everyone's memory is. If you're not going to be there in the future, everybody starts to forget about you. So Iger's on his way out to go being, hopefully, he's hoping, an ambassador somewhere for the next chapter of his life. And Bob Chapek is like, hey, it's just going to be you and me, guys, so let's get used to it now. And apparently everyone's kind of upset about it. Every division. Probably not Kevin Feige, because he's allowed to do whatever he wants because he does it so well. But it seems that everybody's kind of, and even, they said, Variety said, even outside people who are pitching Disney to do projects are like, what's going on over here? Apparently the restructuring wasn't as smooth as we had been told by Bob Chapek in previous Investor Day calls. And it seems to be a little bit convoluted. Here's the thing. Right now, Bob Chapek is winning. So he can be as controversial as he wants because he's doing great. But I think it's important to remember, and I hope that Chapek remembers this, that he's doing well on everything that Bob Iger put in motion. He didn't just hire Bob Chapek, but, these Disney Plus was Bob Iger's idea. All the people he hired to run the divisions, all the movies that are being made. Alan Horn's also on the way out, who's been running all the film. And that was Bob Iger picked Alan Horn. So we'll see how Chapek feels, like in a year or so, or 2 years, when he is truly running the Mouse House. And I think then we'll also have a better idea as to how he's doing. But right now, he's not, he hasn't sunk the ship. He's keeping it going. He's keeping it going. And today there were some very interesting developments. Now, not everything came up Mickey head ice cream bars in the quarterly report, but things are looking pretty darn good. There was really only one hiccup with Disney Plus slowed subscriber growth, which we'll discuss. But the biggest headline by far is that Jungle Cruise will be the last, at least for now, that's very interesting, theaters and Disney Premier Access day and date debut. And that was just announced this morning that film would be going to Disney Premier Access the same day as theatrical release. But that starting with Free Guy and on August 13th and also with Shang-Chi on September 3rd for Labor Day weekend, those movies will switch to the 45-day window that other studios are doing. We're going to talk about the 45-day window in just a minute, but let me give you a couple more details here. Now, I don't think that will mean any bonuses. This has been a big part of the conversation with shortening windows or getting rid of them completely with, the day and date releases. What about people's bonuses? Well, over at Marvel, Kevin Feige's a good soldier. I'm sure he's already being very well compensated. And there aren't any huge Hollywood stars in that film anyway. Awkwafina maybe, but she's not at the point where she'd be getting a bonus anyway. So they don't have to worry about compensating anybody there. Boy, no wonder Disney likes Marvel. Marvel is actually pretty cheap. They lock people into pretty low rates for multi-picture deals. So I don't think they're paying anybody huge dollars over there either, which is another reason that Marvel is so well liked by not just fans, but the business, the suits. But I think with Free Guy, Sean Levy, the director, will need to be compensated, and I would think Ryan Reynolds. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Ryan Reynolds, as we discussed just the other day, signed a deal with Paramount. He's out. He's leaving Disney. He's not going to go over to Disney and make movies there. I mean, he might as Deadpool, but he's not going to be somebody who's in the Disney family, even at 20th Century or Searchlight Studios. In fact, he's following the Fox leadership over to Paramount, which is where they all ended up. So maybe if I were Chapek, who's famous or infamously cheap Chapek, he's very well known for that, maybe he won't pay Ryan Reynolds, and especially because, again, he's not going to be sticking around. And I don't think Ryan Reynolds will complain about it. I think Ryan Reynolds is already doing very well. I think he's already making a ton of money. I think he's a little bit too savvy about that to make any enemies. He's not like Chapek. He's not going to go make enemies. But I wouldn't put it above him to make a joke about it, which I think would be absolutely hilarious. I think that's how Ryan Reynolds would most likely comment on it. And it would be very funny. Now, for some reason, no one on a call like this, because it's for stock, it's only financial reporters, not entertainment journalists, who are on the call, who can ask questions. And they ask questions that were all very much related to, in their opinion, how the stock would be affected. So nobody asked during the call which service the two movies will debut on. I mean, obviously Shang-Chi will go on Disney Plus, but where will Free Guy go? Will that go on Disney Plus or will it go on Hulu? Bob Chapek just said, VOD. He didn't even specify if it was PVOD, premium video on demand, like iTunes or Amazon, or SVOD, subscriber video on demand. So we don't know where it's going. Maybe Disney hasn't totally decided yet, because I would think they would have mentioned that in the announcement. And we don't know if there will be a price point or if it will be free at no extra cost to subscribers. To me, I think that maybe some of you said if you have to wait 45 days, you can't charge $30 for it. And I would probably agree with that. But I think you can't charge nothing for it, especially when you consider how cheap these streaming services are. So maybe it'll be a lower price point. I don't like the 45-day window. But first, let's finish talking about this. So Chapek also clarified that Disney isn't done with Premier Access and that they will decide going forward on a picture-per-picture basis. And in fact, he said production is almost back up to 100% for Disney, making films and TV shows, and that 20th Century and Searchlight are back up and running. And they will be making, I thought he said 15, but apparently it's 50 movies a year for Fox for 20th Century. That seems ridiculous to me. But maybe not. And 20, that's incredible. That can't be right. And 20 for Searchlight. But they said that these two entities will be making a lot of movies for all Disney platforms, which means theatrical, Disney Plus, Hulu, to go to all those different brands. So maybe some of those will be $30 out of the gate. I mean, I think that Disney is still very much in the experimental stage. I guess it keeps things interesting, even if a little annoying. Now, speaking of movies, also Chapek pointed out that he's winning again because Disney won Best Picture and Best Animated Feature at the Oscars. But again, Bob Chapek had nothing to do with that. He's inheriting Iger's successes still at this point. Now, let's talk about this 45-day window. This is something that Paramount started when they announced a 45-day window for movies like A Quiet Place 2, which hits theaters Memorial Day weekend. Just 45 days later, you'll be able to watch it on Paramount Plus. They did not specify if it would be for an extra price or not, although I don't think Paramount Plus is at the point. Well, I don't know. They actually have a pretty good number of subscribers because of Nickelodeon. So maybe they could. And Warner Brothers will be doing the 45-day window starting in 2022 after they wrap this year with their 2021 slate, which started all this with that, scorched earth announcement at the end of last year. Now, I still feel the 45-day window is too short. I feel that it will kill any movie that's not a big blockbuster. I think a month and a half isn't very long to wait, especially with so much other content to distract you. Like if you want to have any cool surprises in Shang-Chi, you probably can't wait for that movie, but you can wait a month and a half for Free Guy. I mean, especially if it's basically for free since you're already subscribed. I mean, I just think that's crazy. I mean, maybe it'll help the movie theater experience. It'll incentivize them to, literally clean up their act and enforce no talking and no phone rules. I continue to beat the premium theater's drum for the future of going to the movies, and many are starting to join me. But still, what would box office like that look? What would that look like? I mean, Netflix is benefiting from this. We're going to talk on Sunday once we see how Army of the Dead does. If, maybe this will make Netflix finally crack the theatrical model and that, Netflix is thinking of maybe releasing some of their bigger movies in theaters first. And, why not do what the studios are doing, which would be insane. I mean, it's like apples are oranges all of a sudden. What the heck is that, right? I mean, I still think they haven't cracked it just yet. I really feel, and I feel I feel that I'm really coming around that you have to protect the movie theater model. I'm really starting to come back to that. I think it's something special. I think it's what movies have going for them that differentiate them from the competition. Watch this weekend's Movie Math where I go into that. I'll put a link down below. But I think the 45-day window just isn't it. I think 70 days, to be honest with you, was just fine. I think everything was fine, and studios shouldn't be greedy because they're doing very well with streaming now. So I think that they should go back to the 70-day model and then just have everybody watch their specific streaming content. That's how I think it should go. Now, speaking of what you can't, now this all started because people were afraid to go to the movies, right? Well, another development from the CDC today, fantastic for Disney, saying that if you're vaccinated, you can basically do whatever you want. You don't have to wear a mask outdoors or indoors or socially distance. Now, I believe there's a chance this is to incentivize people to get vaccinated because the CDC fibbed at the beginning of the pandemic when they said you didn't need a mask then either because they were trying to protect the very small supply and make sure that the healthcare workers could get it. So they fibbed, which is the nicest way I can put it. So I worry that they're fibbing again to try and get people to get vaccinated with saying it's like a carrot, saying, hey, if you're vaccinated, you can do whatever you want. But I suspect a lot of people will say, hey, I'm just going to do whatever I want anyway, like I was doing. And this certainly isn't going to get me to change, especially now that, nobody will, because you can't tell who's been vaccinated or not because no one's willing to use vaccine passports. But Disney doesn't care. This is very good news for them across every vertical. This means movie theaters can start to open back up more quickly. Theme parks, which Bob Chapek said they would be doing almost immediately. They're not going to necessarily go to 100%. They're going to go to higher capacity than they're at right now. And cruise lines, with the Disney Wish about to set sail next year, they said that's going to be able to go much faster. So I personally, I feel a lot of people will do the same thing. Let everybody else run out. And let's see how rates are looking about 2 weeks after the 4th of July. And let's see if this is true, what the CDC is saying, or if it's indeed too good to be true. So I actually think that Free Guy in mid-August is the right movie to start the 45-day window experiment with. I mean, Disney can always change their minds if there's a blow-up, right, with new cases. But I think that's when I think Free Guy, most people will be going to go, almost everyone will be willing to go to the movies at that point if, things are looking good. So I think second half of summer is looking really solid. So I'm curious what you think about the 45-day window and when you're going to feel comfortable to go out more and when you might start going back to your pre-pandemic, activities. I know some of you will be like, I'm doing it right now, but whatever. Okay, everybody's got to do what's best for them. And that's why Disney is offering options up until Free Guy. So the only hiccup again today was that slowdown of Disney Plus subscriber growth. They went from 94 million to 103.6 globally, but they were expected to hit 110. So they didn't grow that much. Netflix also slowed down this quarter as well, which hurt their stock as well. Both stocks were hurt a little bit by this. And as I tweeted, this really just goes to show that the streaming wars are just getting started. The streaming wars, they have begun. Now, some of you are quick to point out that Disney Plus didn't hit any new territories this quarter, and next quarter it will be hitting Malaysia June 1st and Thailand June 30th. Let's see if that's enough to make a difference. You'll be proven right next quarter. And then also Chapek said we need more Star Wars content. The Marvel content's doing great, but we want to get those Star Wars fans back in here. I think the Bad Batch is certainly scratching the Star Wars itch of the super core fan base, but it's certainly not going to perform like The Mandalorian will or the upcoming like Andor or Obi-Wan, stuff like that. Some of you pointed out that Percy Jackson should help as well, but I don't know about that. I think Percy Jackson is really good for the target Disney crowd, which are already subscribed. Now, there's room to grow. Netflix has 200 million subscribers globally, so Disney Plus, they shouldn't be slowing down now. I think I can understand Netflix slowing down because they're the leader, but I think that Disney Plus should not be slowing down just yet, although they are second place. I think that consumers are being faced with hard choices. They got to choose which services to subscribe to. And Disney might have hit everyone who's an easy sell for them. And also people are starting to go back out now, so they won't have the same need for the streaming services as they did during the pandemic. So that'll be a very interesting thing to watch. So what will get people to subscribe to Disney Plus if they're not already subscribed? I'm curious to hear your thoughts down below. Here are mine. Maybe it is more Star Wars shows. I think movies like Cruella, Black Widow, and Jungle Cruise could help. Luca at no extra cost. But I think of all that stuff, I think of all those movies, I think only Black Widow could really move the needle. I think everything else, if you wait 30 days, you can purchase that with extras on iTunes or Amazon. So, and you'd actually own it. It would not be just through your subscription. So I think most people can wait 30 days for Cruella and Jungle Cruise. Certainly Jungle Cruise. Maybe not Cruella. I'm excited for that movie. I'm curious. I think let's see what the reviews are and how that will drive business. I think that they just need more content overall. They don't have the same level of content that Netflix has. You can't be subscribed to Disney Plus and then have that be your only entertainment source. And I think it's not just that they need more content, but I think they need more flavor. Disney is a very distinct flavor. Even when you loop in stuff like Marvel and Star Wars and National Geographic, it's still... And even some of the 20th Century and Searchlight content, but that's largely living on Hulu. So there's the Disney bundle, which Chapek said is also, they think, going to really drive business. Hulu subscribership that only jumped from 39.4 to 41.6. So Hulu needs more content too. But I think when they get that Alien show and stuff like that, that's going to make a really big difference. And Hulu does have some amazing content on there. I'm a big, I wasn't with Love Victor. You guys remember, I wasn't even subscribed. I watch Hulu as much as, I think I watch Hulu as much as I watch Netflix. And then after that, it's Disney Plus and HBO Max. I watch a lot of Hulu. It's a great service. But I think that the Disney bundle is probably the way to go, and they need more content across all the platforms, which is exactly what they said they're doing, to make sure that you get a fully flavorful experience that leaves you full. So that's what I think is going to be the magic sauce, to replicate the Netflix model as closely as possible. And so let's see if Chapek can do it. The Bob Iger training wheels are coming off. Let's see what he does when he's all by his lonesome. So what do you think of these latest developments? Share your thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.